Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some more Ludum Dare number 39 showcase action here today. I'm your host, Larry. The theme is running out of power, and to start us off here today, we're going to be checking out Running the Marathon, a compo entry created by the Games Popper, a gentleman that I have known for a little while now. I checked out his Gemstone Keeper game that went out on Steam a while back, and he has created a bit of a marathon simulator. Honestly, if I had to describe exactly what it is this game is, it kind of feels like somebody took the game Quap. You remember Quap, right? That game where you have to use your various keys on the keyboard to control legs on a person or on various animals, and it ended up being really awkward because your brain didn't really understand how to do that. Well, it's kind of like that, but instead of trying to trick you, this game just tries to get you to go into some type of rhythmic running for the whole of this marathon by simply pressing the right and left arrow keys to try and keep a certain rhythm with your character, but not to go too fast, otherwise you'll hit that evil wall that marathoners are always so afraid of, and you'll run out of energy. Hence, the sort of game theme here. I would also argue that with a game like this, because this is a very long game, the Game Popper warned me about that in the comments on my game submission form, I'd also say that the running out of power theme also works for your patience depending on what type of gamer you are. You might run out of your patience power while you're waiting for this game to complete. But at the same time, this game almost serves as a sort of zen relaxation tool because of the way that you can kind of sync up your movements with the noises in the background, and the tempo sort of changes a little bit as you go faster or you go slower. In fact, let's go really, really fast to see if I can break this character. Make him, like, really there you go. So you can see, we start to get the little sweat lines above our character's head, and we start to pitter out of energy. It's not bad. I mean, there's really good pixel art. That's something that Game Popper is always really good at. And there's just something so nice and rhythmic about that background noise. I'm doing this later in the evening time to record this video, so this time of night, this is the perfect thing to just kick back and relax to, just rhythmically tap with your pointer finger and your middle finger, your ring finger, whichever fingers you like to use, and just let the game take you away. In fact, I haven't reached the end of this game yet, but I'd imagine it's something like the mile mark that you actually pass the finish line, but there is a proper ending to it. And I do wonder, if you were going to build this into a fuller-fledged title, exactly what you might do with it. Because I think about a number of different directions this game could go. You could go in the direction of Quap, like I said before. Quap is an interesting game because it's trying to get you to get as far as humanly possible, but it's also trying to get you to tongue-tie your fingers, I think is a good way to describe it, where you're not sure which finger to use for what, kind of like Surgeon Simulator. And to implement that into this game, I'd say on top of your two arrow keys, you might have to use your down arrow and the space bar, the up arrow, in order to duck underneath of obstacles and maybe jump over some marathon hurdles occasionally, or maybe like pedestrians that have fallen over in your path, in order to give you something else you have to worry about while you keep tempo to also have to avoid smacking into things. Now, the fails, like, if I stop this character right now, I don't really have a fail state in this game per se. I think you just get like an incomplete time when you finish the race. So I think, for the final game, much like that movie where they couldn't stop the bus or go under a certain speed or the thing would explode, I feel like if you go below a certain speed, you maybe get disqualified from your race, something else might happen, maybe there's a jaguar chasing you. So you have to constantly be maintaining your speed while avoiding certain tricky obstacles. Now, the other option, which probably makes a little bit more sense on paper, I would say, is you could turn this game into a bit of an endless runner. All you'd have to do is change the scenery in the background with some different buildings and maybe some scenic palm trees for like a beach or something. You could easily turn this game into just an endless running simulator where you've got to like try to time your runs for optimum efficiency. Or you could do something similar like I said before, but there's less worrying about the rhythm of running and more just trying to avoid smacking into too many obstacles because you only have so much health for your character. There's a lot of directions you could go. And I mean, I'd also imagine you could go in the direction with this game of realism. Because something that runners really run into, speaking of running out of energy, is you do something where you hit the wall, where your body transitions from using up the blood sugar from whatever your most recent meal was, and attempts to start using your body's energy reserves in the form of fat. This is what's known as hitting the wall, or at least in part what's known as hitting the wall, and your body kind of freaks out a moment. You feel really, you can suddenly feel a little lightheaded, you're low on blood sugar, and your body has to get to the point where it switches over, and that's a very disconcerting thing for a lot of people. I've had that working in the Scouts before, and it's weird the first time. After the first time, it's not too bad. It's something you get used to over time. So you might have to worry about hitting the wall, like there's a bar where you have to monitor your energy level directly so that you don't hit the wall and run out of energy too quickly and pass out in the middle of the race. I don't know, there's a lot of different ways you could go with this. And I think right now it's pretty, bland would be putting it lightly, but there's something charming about the sort of relaxing rhythm to this game. So I like it. So I think you could totally do something more with this. I just can't quite put my finger on what it is. It also reminds me a lot of like public awareness messages for like kids on PBS too. It's just a very simple art style that kind of looks like a little Gumby character running down the street. So nice job, Game Popper. I'm not entirely certain if I'm going to reach the end of our little race here. I'd say we probably already traveled more than a mile, given the scale of this character and how quickly he's moving across these floor tiles. But I'm not a pixel mileologist, so I'm not going to say yay or nay. But I like the concept. I wish there was something more to do. Maybe something more to keep myself occupied than just worrying about over-exhausting myself by going too fast. Like, if you go too slow, you run out of energy. It's like you gotta try to find, like, the optimum pace and try to keep that as perfectly as possible by just timing your finger clicks. I'd say, like, the co-op direction seems very strong, but who knows? So nice job. I guess it's not at the 1 mile mark that we beat the game, so I will probably not finish it, but pretty good graphics. Pixel graphics are always nice, always really clean and simple when put together. The sound design is good for trying to maintain some type of tempo and rhythm or help people to do that. And the gameplay hasn't caused me to have any major bugs. So nicely done. I just wish there was more. Next up, we've got Daemon, which is a jam entry made by Bomb Jack, and this is the story of an angel who's been tasked with journeying to hell and redeeming the souls of the dead. Unfortunately, you know, those sticklers up in heaven, they don't want really angels to be running around hell, so you're not really allowed to run around in hell, so what we've gone ahead and done is we've possessed a demon, so that we can run around here all willy-nilly and try to save as many souls as possible. To do that, we have a soul blade, and our health and power is derived from the very souls that we're trying to save. Unfortunately, hell being a kind of dangerous place, it kind of drains the health and life right out of you. So it's a bit of a difficult platformer, but it has a certain amount of charm to it because I really dig the very sharp and jagged pixel art here. And then if we really want to jump like a pro, we can use our soul blade to get a little bit of extra height before we accidentally knock our head into something and then melt. And that is definitely very grisly, and exactly how I would anticipate a soul-powered demon dying is by running out of juice and literally disintegrating. So it's a solid concept for a game, it really is. I just wish for this early jam version that it wasn't quite so difficult. Now, I can understand if it's intentionally difficult. There's a lot of market for intentionally difficult games out in the world. Like Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac can be a couple of pretty good examples. Edward, was it Mullen or Mick Mullen? Edward Mullen, I'll say, the guy who created those games, does a nice job of creating games that always feel particularly brutal and particularly punishing. Oh, darn it, I lost all my health. But in this case, I don't know, I feel like it should ramp up a little bit slower. That's always been the trouble with a lot of difficult games, is they could ramp up slower, but they just don't. And I always kind of saw that as a little bit of a missed opportunity for people. These games can be a lot of fun. It's just that you need to give people a moment to kind of react and respond to things going on in the game. Now, in this case, I think one of the big ways you could do that, if you could power through this as a new player, is, you know how in retro games you used to have that flashy light when you had health, or when you lost health or took some type of damage, and then you couldn't take damage for a little while? I think this game calls for a mechanic a lot like that. Because it's pretty unforgiving, there's a lot of spikes everywhere, everything has got a ridiculous amount of very low tolerance. Like, you gotta barely skim the top of your billy goat horns, otherwise you'll lose your entire head. And that's kind of a little ridiculous early on in a game. So if you had something like, you know, your health would start to blink once you got hit, that would go a long way in improving things. Currently, our only other ability is to swing this soul blade, and unfortunately, because I'm already having trouble really keeping my energy up, keeping my health up, I really don't ever want to try to use it because it just seems like such a punishing mechanic in a game that's already fairly punishing. So I think there's room to improve there. Maybe the soul blade only costs you energy on a double jump. I could see that being a thing. At present, I flat out just kind of refuse to use it because every time I do, I pretty much die immediately. So I don't know. I like the concept for this game. Like, it's got a good setting. Maybe some more writing for the story could give you some more interesting characters to put inside of it. And then, you know, maybe just make it a little bit easier and ramp up in difficulty as you go. And I think that would vastly improve the game. Currently, I've been experiencing some funny bugs, like your character hugging onto walls randomly when I don't click over to them. And I think right now even the music is looping unintentionally over itself, where, how would I describe it? It's like every time I die, the music restarts and the old music is still playing. So that can be a little bit of an annoying headache causer. But other than, like, you know, obvious jam issues of lack of time, like, I like the concept, it just needs a bit more refinement. Like, also some story would be nice. Like, why exactly is this angel being tasked with plundering souls from hell? I mean, aren't the souls in hell supposed to be there? Some more story and, like, an overall goal in the game would be a nice touch. Because that's something that Super Meat Boy, for example, had, is you had to go save your skin. Your princess, who was a literal bag of skin. And at the end of each level, I mean, on top of getting souls that keep us alive in this world, we could also get, I don't know, maybe we get like a commendation from Michael, the Archangel. Or, I don't know, maybe Billy Joel's up in heaven somewhere and he wants to give us a high five of some variety. But some reason to be in here besides a basic starter story is always nice in a platformer to keep you going through. Some type of reward, because if you're going for extremely difficult, you need to reward players with something, or else they're just gonna give up and not come back. And maybe do more with the wall jumping. Like, I should be able to scale a wall continuously if I jump, but just grabbing onto it tentatively, temporarily, really limits my options for platforming. So I like the graphics, the sound design sounds nice, the concept sounds interesting, but I would play around with it some more to see if you can't get something that could become a fully fledged release. Alright, last but certainly not least, we have Station 5723 Reactor Down, which is made by Archie Magus, Decry, Alex T Design, and John Ryan Audio. This is a jam entry, and as the story goes, we are a technician that works at a power plant, and unfortunately there's been like a freak meteor storm, and our station has been hit by a meteorite, or perhaps in this case, a meteor wrong, that's hit us straight dead center in the middle of our facility, and done tremendous amounts of damage, and we have to get everything back online before the backup power runs out, and presumably the reactor goes critical, and we all explode. And it's actually pretty simple. So you're just kind of looking around in the environment to see what's broken. Like we've got, what is this? There's something smoking here in the control panel. There's all this flavorful goo coming out of this pipe. And I don't think this is shower goo. This looks like murder goo that's supposed to cool off the power reactor. I remember back in radiographer's school that power plants like cooling so that they don't go boom. So we've basically just got to run around point and click style and try to fix everything. Like here we've got some red flashy lights. Looks like this is either a window to the outside or maybe we're partially underwater. And oh, hello, what's this? This looks like a key card. So it essentially is a first person point and click adventure where you have complete free reign to run around the environment. You got to take things apart to scavenge different materials to make sure this facility doesn't explode before we can fix it. So like right here, what is smoking here? It looks like we've got a broken power fuse. Well, that's not good. What's in here? Oh. Dang it, why do we put the spare nuclear core under such security? What was the password again? Was it Hank's cat? Well, it looks like the 5, the 3, the 2, and the 7 have been used a lot. I wonder if this is a case of using password as your password. Oh, it looks like it is. So now we've got a nuclear core. Well, we can't just put it in right now. That would be bad. This thing's not up and running yet. Oh, I need the fuse. But if we put that in there without cooling, that will probably explode, right? So we gotta come up here. Pop open this call box, because call boxes always have really old, expensive cathode ray fuses. Pop that in here. Alright, we've got power back to the control panel. Let me get another mouthful of this delicious, Smartie-flavored coolant. We'll fix you. And then I think all we've got to do is take out the old core, slap that puppy back in, and we should, in theory, be good to go. I think. Alright. Powering up. I think so. I mean, if not, up, there we go. Success! So I like this game. I mean, it's essentially a very straightforward point-and-click adventure where you have to repair a power station. That is about as running out of power as it probably gets in a very literal sense. And I think it's a very pointed game for the modern era to create, because we always sort of have issues in this day and age with every time there's a big natural disaster, it seems like another power plant is about to go boom. And I don't know about you, but I prefer it if there's less fallout in the atmosphere, not more, especially because, you know, we're already pouring lots of stuff out into it every single flippin' day. I don't actually know if this panel's useful for anything, so I'll just leave that alone. But yeah, like, I thought this was good. This is very direct. Now, there are a couple bugs, obviously, like textures are going on adventures. These rails are a lie. That's just not up to OSHA standards. We're gonna get, like, fined by the government or something. Can I pop this out? No, not while it's still on. I'll get electrocuted. Dang it, backup power, why do I need you so we don't explode? Every flippin' time with you. But I like this concept. It's very clean, there's good design for a lot of this. All of these models look like they were made by the same group of people and put into the same environment. It all looks right up to snuff with what I would expect from a well-polished early build, like an early prototype build for a game. Now, what I could definitely see this game quickly becoming is either we become a secret agent who has to break into facilities and help fix stuff as they go about their mission, or alternatively, I would feel like we could be the best janitor point-and-click game inside of a very expensive, like, mad scientist lair. Because why would you have, like, a self-contained nuclear reactor like this in the middle of nowhere? Would it be because you're running it for a special government facility, for the military, for a mad scientist? These are the questions that I would definitely hope to answer. What else could you do with this? So this is a very nice point-and-click engine. I like that you have to scavenge around the area, not only for tools, but also for components. Because in a pinch, I clearly wouldn't have time to run across the environment to my workstation on the other side of the facility to try and grab an extra screwdriver of the right size in order to keep things from overheating. I would just try to make do with whatever I could on hand and yell at my coworker to try and help me fix things on the fly. So that's really on point. And the other thing is, if you did decide to go with a point-and-click design for a game like this, you just gotta make sure that you stay consistent with making the logic very logical. Because that was always my big qualm with things like King's Quest and Space Quest, is that some of the logic, while fun and cartoony, was kinda out there. Like, why would I expect for alien boogers to be the thing I need to slick the surface of this rocket ship on its outside so that the crazy space alien doesn't eat me? These are all, I feel, important questions that need to be answered by developers. Now, it's okay to have some of that be in there because it's fun to include, but at the same time, like, don't put too many in there because it gets confusing and then people are just guessing and potentially janking up the game. So I'd be interested to see what you guys decide to build this into. I really liked this. Like, I blazed through this in, like, I don't know, maybe a minute. I barely even had the power ticked down. I was just blitzing through this. But at the same time, things made sense. I felt like I was problem solving in a really efficient way, like I was some sort of crazed engineering student let loose inside of a nuclear facility in the middle of the Fukushima power reactor going crazy in Japan, for example. So if you added like some fun story concepts, like the idea that we're working for a mad scientist, and you go through different environments, solving different puzzles, using point-and-click mechanics, I think this would be really good. You could even put in some mini-games where you have to fight people with a wrench, BioShock style, making fun of BioShock, or some other games, like maybe a Half-Life, and you'd be good to go. Like, everyone loves having a little bit of humor in their game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and this could even be like the next jazz punk point-and-click adventure. So I'd say you guys should team up continuously and try to build this into a game, because you don't really need any crazier graphics than what you've got right here. Like, this is very workable. You've got nice shadows going on. Sure, this stuff doesn't have HD textures, but it all looks pretty good and pretty fun. And I could totally see this being released for like a $12 or $20 game that's really fleshed out with a lot of funny jokes and humor and some simplistic everything else, and you'd be good to go. I like it. So nice job, everybody. I thought this was another great set of 3 games. I'm slowly working through my list that people have been sending me stuff. Keep on sending me awesome games. I'll keep on making videos throughout the voting period. And until next time, once again, lovely job, everybody. Other than that feedback, I didn't have too much more to say. So keep on making delicious things and sticking with Ludum Dare to keep making better and better games with practice, and I'll catch you guys and gals next time. You can find the links to these games in the video description below so that you can vote on them if you have the capacity to vote, if you're one of the other creators from Ludum Dare. And otherwise, you can play them, share them with your friends, leave comments if you make a profile on the Ludum Dare site, the Ludum Dare site. Every once in a while, I have the Ludum Dare pronunciation slip here and there. And yeah, have a good one, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and toodles, fruitles.